So, Lake Erie's probably my favorite place to go fishing of all the places we go throughout the year. Lake Erie's just an incredible fishery. God, that's my biggest one ever, man. Lake Erie is just an incredible fishery. Smallmouth, walleye, largemouth, you can catch about whatever you want here. So Lake Erie is typically a drop shot, a Ned rig, or a crankbait sort of deal. And sometimes in the harbors you can get on some other bites with largemouth baits, like a spinnerbait or some topwater baits, or some of the other things that typically work in the south, the chatterbait maybe for some largemouth. But on the smallmouth out in the main lake, used to it was the tube. Then it became the Ned rig. The last couple of years, drop shot's been really prevalent for me. Bottom right here still looks good. I probably should start lining them on the other side. Another quality one. There's not another place like Lake Erie in June. The whole setting, the islands and the planes that come and go and the boat traffic and Pudding Bay and, all the things that make Lake Erie what it is, just make it such a different trip than any place else that I go throughout the year. But, without a doubt, my favorite part is to catch those water walkers, those brown fish that as soon as you set the hook, they jump 2 or 3 feet high in some instances. Some of these fish in this video, they're almost too fat to jump. Some of these fish are still pre-spawn and some of these fish are already post-spawn. It's early June, but this trip, just like a lot of the other June trips that we've taken in our lives, is an incredible trip. We caught a bunch of fish. We had a bunch of run-ins with quality fish, which gets a little tougher as the summer goes along. But there's just no place like Lake Erie. Another giant. Oh yeah, he's probably about, I don't even know if he's 12 inches. He thinks he's a daggone giant though. It's my favorite trip every year. Every single time I go up, I'm like a kid on Christmas. These fish will typically group up on spots, and we were lucky to find a few of those spots where we found some of these fish grouped up. And just like any other place that you fish, it's all about timing. Sometimes these fish on Lake Erie, at least the last few years, it seems like they feel the pressure. And when they feel that pressure, it seems like the big ones turn off almost immediately or move off the structure, that you're fishing. Oh, dang. talk a little bit about how we caught our fish. You know, in June, you can just about always find some bedding fish in the harbors, on hard bottom shores, you know, all the places that they should be in and around the Bass Islands.
This is a good one too.
You know, I love throwing a big glide bait. I'm throwing a big sunfish glide bait right here, and you know, these fish are on the beds where the rock meets the grass line there. That there are a line of beds all the way down this bank. You know, and that glide bait triggers, and we had a big smallmouth show itself right here. You know, and Dad follows it up with a jerk bait and catches that fish. You know, the glide bait tip here, I like throwing it with a tiny loop knot.
Let's take a picture with that one, man.
Using a snap. And either one of those things will allow that bait to kick just a little further to the side. Whether you do that with your reel or you do that with that rod tip, you can create the action either way. You know, you hear us a few times talking about the fact that Dad left his net back at the house, but you know, we don't have a net on this trip, which is fine, but hand landing fishing with 621 is a little higher degree of difficulty with those higher sides. You know, here I'm throwing a spinnerbait. It's a spinnerbait from Team No Fish. It's the FS Stalker series, and you know, that spinnerbait just has a ton of vibration in the water. You know, and these smallmouth just couldn't stand it. Don't ever grab the line before you land your fish. It allows that fish to create slack in the line.
Oh God, he got off.
So we stopped off again, and you know, of course I missed this fish, but we landed several fish this class that day, maybe kind of spoiled them that way. So it wasn't really that upsetting to me.
My spinnerbait too. Get up in there.
But you know, one of the things that we found on the post spawners was they were also grouped up, you know, on the rock piles nearest to those spawning locations. So, you know, if you could find some of that rock structure, you know, it seemed like with a crankbait, that reaction bite, you know, seemed to trigger those fish, and you know, that was what was most effective for us. You know, later on in the video, I'm going to break down those lures and talk exactly about, you know, our lures, our line, and our setup.
Better.
So when I catch a fish, one of the things that I like to do is I like to touch my fish. I just like to hold it, maybe take a picture with it, you know, put it back myself. But in this moment, looking back, I can laugh, and you can hear me get kind of aggravated with Dad because he unhooks my fish and throws it back in the water.
What are you doing? Yes, I'm going to take a picture with it. There's two. There's another one with it. Up over there. Yeah, I see it. He's right behind it.
So let's talk location. You know, really in June, anywhere you identify on a map that you think could potentially hold smallmouth, typically will. You know, and that's something we've tried to do the last few years, is maybe fish the lake a little different. You know, like everybody else, I guess we get hung up fishing spots that have always produced. You know, and some of those spots haven't been as good the last few years, to be honest. So, you know, we searched for new water, and we found some new water, you know, really anywhere around these islands. They're called the Bass Islands for a reason, because, you know, bass pull up and spawn around the hard bottom areas that you can find. You know, and for us on this trip, you know, like I said, probably 50% of fish were pre-spawn, 50% post-spawn.
You gotta get back to the front.
And without a doubt, what worked best for us on this trip was the Bandit 200 series. You know, around these rocky shores, just seems like we could find tons of fish, you know, and even offshore, if you could find some of those rock piles, you know, they'd run up and hit that Bandit 200 series. You know, I've been going up to the big lake for a long time, caught a lot of quality smallmouth up there. You know, 5'2", 5 1/4 smallmouth, you know, has been my personal best until this trip.
Got him balance. good one. No net. I would get ready to get the net.
God, that's my biggest one ever, Dad.
It is a dandy.
You know, I already knew this is a quality fish, and when Joe Kenner calls it a dandy, it's a dandy smallmouth.
That's how you put them in the boat, baby. God, Dad, look at that thing.
You know, last year we had a trip, we caught several 5-pound class smallmouth. You know, on this trip right here, we had several run-ins with 5-pound class smallmouth. You know, on this trip, I was lucky enough to have a run-in with, you know, true 5.5-pound smallmouth, which is a little upgrade on my personal best. You know, it was just an awesome moment, awesome experience out on Lake Erie with Dad. You know, you just don't land them all, and that's what keeps you coming back.
We're not getting it good today, though.
So this week we're talking about the Bandit 200 series. It's a deadly smallmouth lure. You know, if you check these out, you can see the hook marks. So looking at my setup, pretty typical crankbait setup. I've got a medium heavy absolute rod from Favorite Rods. I've got the Bandit 200 series. Okay, I've got it in root beer, all right? And then I've got it in river bream, all right? I'm throwing it on 15-pound Seaguar red label, okay? Some of my favorite line, just gets it done time after time. I've got two different reels. I don't have a reel sponsor, so you know, I use what reels I like. I like the Corrado DC and I like the Daiwa Tatula. So, you know, check those two colors out. You can go over to LureNet and pick those up. Use the code Kenner15, save yourself some money. You can also get free shipping on orders over $25.